Hello, and welcome to How to Draw Dragons with the Dragon Story. So in this phase, we roughed out our dragon, we got an idea of what we want our dragon to look like, we created some refined line work, and then we went back through and did a second pass on refining the line work. So in this phase, this is when we start getting to shading. And so this phase, I like keeping it simple, and I just like focusing on the values. And so what I do is, I have two layers. I always save a layer of my line work that I don't mess with, and then I create a copy of that, which then I will just draw directly on. Once again, I'm using the iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil, my artist glove, and the textured mat on the iPad. And as a reminder, I'm using the Vine charcoal brush. One of these days I'll start experimenting with some others, but so far I've really loved this one. Because one of the reasons I like this one so much is because now I can go in, I'll increase the brush size a little bit. And, well, first of all, I like determining the light source, which, to keep it simple, we'll just go with a standard. We have a profile dragon, we'll just have it kind of coming from up above and maybe a little bit in this direction. And so with that in mind, I start thinking, okay, where are the shadows going to be? And this might seem intimidating that you're just drawing over your line work. I'll make it a little bit bigger. And I'm drawing pretty soft. And I kind of use the edge of my pencil because then it creates, since it's pressure sensitive, if you're drawing like this, tilt usually does better. But it gets a little bit thicker. Actually, I'm going to increase the brush size quite a bit more. Because right now, I'm just trying to get a sense of that might be too big. Because I want to be careful. I don't want to have to come back in and erase too much, like where the light's hitting. So let me shrink that down a little bit. But because I'm drawing it in pretty light, this horn's going to be shaded by the other one. Usually there's quite a bit of shadow behind the jawline, underneath the neck, behind the head. And I'm always trying to be sensitive to the structure of the dragon. Meaning, and it doesn't have to be exact, but I'm still trying to move the shadow lines in the same line as my line work, because that line work is capturing some of that 3D space. Like if I come back in here and let me add some shadow, I try and keep it flowing with the design of the neck. And so every brush stroke helps capture the 3D feel of the dragon. And obviously it'll be a little bit darker here behind the head. And then it lightens up as the light hits. And I'm not too worried because I'll do eraser cleanup when I get into the details, because like right there, you don't want that shadow. And so I'm gonna have to come back and clean that up, but a lot of times I do that in the later phases. This is just to get a sense, okay, what does the light look like? A little bit. Because especially on these little scales, they look best when you clean them up with the eraser. I come back in here because, oops, the scale's behind. There'll be some shading. We want to create that 3D depth. The sun's really hitting, the light's hitting the top of the dragon's horn, but there's going to be some shading in between the main scales. A little bit of shadow. Once again, thinking of the structure. Oops, see, that's too big. Let me undo this. Make the brush a little bit smaller. You know, capture that shadow right around the lips, on the edge of the jaw. You know, the shadow will kind of trace around the edges. And spend time studying how the eye is structured, because it's really subtle, smooth shapes in how it blends into the rest, you know, of the creature's skull. But the whole point is just getting a sense of the lighting, because then I add my details on top of this, and so it's already kind of shaded how we want it. Let me add a little bit more here. And I'm doing the brush strokes really soft. You want to be careful that there's not super identifiable lines. And I mean, that's one reason I make sure, like, I don't mind these lines because it helps define the structure of the dragon's neck. But you just want to be mindful of the lines that your shading is creating. These are usually hidden in the shadows. Come back in and add some in. I mean, I think other artists will spend a lot more time on the values. For me, I like mapping out what I want to accomplish with the lighting of the scene, but a lot of that I do in the fine tuning. So yeah, I mean, this is a little bit of a shorter phase because I can just lay down some of the shade really quick. And this kind of gives me what I want or what I'm thinking. So yeah, this concludes, is it phase 4? What phase? I don't know, I lose track. Rough sketch, line work, refine line work, yeah. So phase 4 is mapping out the values or the lighting. And so this kind of finishes this phase. Once I get it to this point, this is when I jump into the details. And this is when things can start taking a long time. But if you're following along, if you're doing your own dragon drawing, get it to this phase so you can really get a sense of what it's going to look like. And then we'll jump into the details next. Once again, thanks for watching, and be sure to check in on the next phase as we get to the details and refinement phase.